people and be generous in our giving to those in need in our local community. And so that's a challenge for us in this area of our community ministries. And as I said before, the big challenge for us with our community ministries is for them to become part of the whole fabric and life of our church. And I've gone on about that. Second area that is going to be a focus for us over the next 12 months is our community youth work. Now on Friday night, Anne Rue, who heads up our Franklin Baptist Community Trust, and Zane and Josh came and did a really good presentation about what is called the 24/7 Youth Initiative. Anne and Esther from the leadership team and Zane and Josh went down to Christchurch just a couple of months ago to look at the Spraden Baptist 24/7 Youth Initiative. Now this has been a very exciting movement of youth leaders from churches getting involved in local schools, high schools especially. And I forget the figures now, but I think it's something like there are about 90 schools now in New Zealand who have youth workers from churches who've got a foot in the school and a foot in the church. And this has been well accepted by the schools. And what Josh has been doing the last 2 years in the local intermediate school has been fantastic. He has got such a great reputation there now. They just love Josh, you know. And now Asher Dwayne has joined him. So we've got now 2 young people at the local intermediate school building relationships with the staff as well as with all the students. And what the 24/7 initiative is aiming to do is that our trust is working in partnership with Zane and Josh to fund them and to work with the school and also find community funding to fund Josh and Asher and their time in the school. And our aim is to build those numbers up and long term to actually see that happen in Pukekohe High School as well, so that we've got some youth leaders who are working in the high school and the school helps to fund that. And we find funding from the community as well to help fund that. But they're also got a foot in the church amongst our youth ministry here. And so this to me is really exciting, that. And it's just really exciting to see what's happening in other churches around the country with these initiatives. Spraden Baptist, for example, because they're working in a number of schools now around Christchurch, they have 10% of Hill Morton High School youth who come to the Spraden Youth Ministry. 10% of the school. That would be fantastic if we had 10% of Pukekohe High right here in church, and involved in our youth ministry. And so that's the whole kind of vision about this, which I think is really exciting. It's all now starting to come together and happen, and it's again taken a while for it to happen, but it's happening, and we're really excited. And let me talk a little bit about our Global Action Team. Pete and Bev van der Westhuizen has been heading that team up. Jackie and Howard Isley, they were also part of that team. Now both those couples have gone. You know, Jack and Howard have gone to Vanuatu for a couple of years with volunteer services abroad, which is fantastic. Passionate about that. Pete and Bev have moved to Tauranga, and Stuart and Julie have taken over leading the group, the GAT team just now, and they're looking for new people on there. But the big challenge and the thing that we want to build is our relationship with the church in Cambodia with Pastor Abraham Hang, who's an outstanding leader. And he's a university graduate, but he's chosen to work in the slums of Phnom Penh and to build a church and ministry to the poor. And we want to partner with that. And the big challenge for the GAT team is to keep on building that relationship so that we can send teams over there and to help in that ministry of reaching the poor through that work. So that's another focus for us in terms of our overseas focus. Thinking Orange. The last few Sundays I've been preaching about building great families, and I've been saying that one of the things that we need to do as parents and church is that we need to partner together to help us so that our kids grow up loving Jesus and become really followers of Jesus. And increasingly for parents it's difficult for raising kids today. Right, not only when they're little, but into their teenage years. And we need to partner together and explore how we can do this better together. both as parents helping the church and the church helping resource parents so that our kids can grow up and become real committed followers of Jesus. Fifthly, our worship area. You know, God's so blessed us in this church with outstanding worship leaders and musicians. And ever since we went to the 2 morning services, man, have I been so grateful for all our musicians and worship guys up here that they've, you know, I mean, right from the first thing the worship leaders said, you know, we're committed to this. And they've, you know, this morning, like, had to get up real early, you know, especially this morning, you know, and come and be here all morning to lead us in worship. And so that's been outstanding. But one of the things we recognize is the church gets bigger and larger. People expect more, and we're at the stage where I need more help with planning services so that we can incorporate things like we talk on Friday night about including testimonies, having more items, drama, and more, you know, the creative kind of area of our worship. And so one of our dreams in the leadership is to actually find somebody who's gifted in those kind of areas to come on staff to help us to develop our worship in that broader sense. Now, we can't afford anybody in our budget this year to bring somebody on like that, but it's one of those dreams, you know. I've said, God, here's my dream, you know. We want to dream about having somebody who can do this, and however God raises up, we want to say, God, raise them up. You know, and so it's kind of one of our dreams out there of having somebody who's really gifted to help us to develop our worship in a broader sense like that. Let me just talk a minute about our finances. God's really blessed us as a church financially over the last 7 years. It's been just great to see how God has blessed us. This year we've actually taken quite a bit of a jump up. We're now at the $500,000 mark budget, which is a lot of money. But we've taken a jump because we're bringing on a full-time assistant pastor. We want this fund for the poor included in the budget, and a number of other reasons. We've taken a jump up, and we're now needing an extra $700 every week in the offerings to cover our budget for this year. And so that's a big challenge for us. And we realise that for many of you, you've been you've been hit by the recession like a lot of people, and you can't give any more extra dollars into the offering plate. But we just want to keep on encouraging those of you who feel that, yes, I can give more here into the life of the church and what's happening in the church. And I just want to encourage you to think about, what can I give in terms of an increasing amount into the life of the church. And I just want to challenge those who are new in the church. We've had quite a lot of new people coming into the church latterly. Just want to encourage you to be committed into the life of the church as well in the area of our giving. And so that's quite a challenge for us. But those are good challenges. You know, they're the challenges of saying, God, we want to keep on growing things in this church, and our finances, we just want to really trust God to bring our finances up so we can do that. And this last thing I want to focus on is what I call a growth strategy for our church. 2006, we were facing what they call growth barriers. The growth barriers. You know, if you've ever been in the life of a church for long, you soon realise that churches grow and then they plateau and then they go up and down on the plateau. It always happens. Same with businesses, I guess, you know. Very easy to kind of get to a plateau, and then you've got a growth barrier. And our growth barrier, 2006, was just that we ran out of room. Now, I believe we're facing those same kind of barriers right now. We're facing a growth barrier. And it's more to do with our structure in the church, our structures, and the need for bringing on more people into leadership areas and freeing people up to go for it in different areas of ministry and not be restricted by our structures. And so it's one of the things we're going to have to work through at a leadership level. How can we keep on, as it were, freeing up our structures and giving people permission to be involved in growing things in the life of the church and in the kingdom here? And to help us to do that, we've invited the Baptist consultants to come back next year, in May next year, to help us go through another assessment as a church and say, where are we at? And how can we keep on growing and reaching out into our community here in Pukekohe?